What's going on, guys? I've been a fan of the Rogan podcast for a long time. I think that he has a lot of great guests on there, and it's always extra interesting when it's somebody that's in your own field. Just recently, he had the knees over toes guy on his podcast, and they talked for a couple hours. And for us, that was exciting. And even within his conversation, there's a lot of things he touches on that we're really familiar with. So we see a lot of problems with people and their knees in the gym. We've been to West Side, and we pulled hundreds of miles of sled, probably done every version you can possibly imagine, pushing, pulling, carrying, as well as something that we hear really often. Not as much in the winter, but we're huge advocates of. Also, I'm going to address why I'm on crutches and how I broke my foot. So if you guys stay tuned for that, if you've got the stomach for it, we'll actually put the video up because it's on our gym cam at the end of this video.
Being in the gym and working with a lot of people, the first thing that we coach for the air squat and the functional movement is that full range of motion. And this is something the knees over toes guys talks about a lot, is getting into that full range of motion. And a lot of people are scared at first. They're worried that's gonna hurt their knees, and they actually come in with knee pain. With sticking with us and working on the proper positions, having the right form, and doing it safely, efficiently, and smartly, over time, within 3 to 6 months, they come to me and they're like, Christy, Patrick, you won't believe it. My knee pain is gone. I can go up and down the steps without knee pain. My knees are stronger than ever. I can jump onto this box. I never thought I'd be able to jump onto it. And a lot of that comes from training that full range of motion, strengthening all of the muscles around the knee that are actually gonna make the knee itself stronger. And a lot of that comes from knees going over toes.
It's funny because for me, before this was even like a known issue or something that was on my radar, I have always been a really deep squatter. Ass to grass is just what feels the most comfortable for me. I didn't have to think about it. It's not something I was trying to do. And a byproduct of that was that my knees always went really far over my toes when I squatted. I'm typically an upright squatter as well, and I've never had any pain in my knees or squatting in general. And it's actually been one of my favorite moves. But for probably 8 years, I've had people tell me that that's eventually going to cause me knee problems because my knees go so far over my toes. And inherently, it never felt like a problem, it never felt uncomfortable, and I always felt strong in those positions. But it's funny to see the tide turning of knowledge that maybe that's not a bad thing, and the ability to do that can be a good thing. For me, I'm naturally limber, and that position was just comfortable, but for most people, it's something that we've got to work towards.
What have you been doing all morning? Been sleeping?
All different age groups, it's something that either bugs them while, during, or after they're squatting. And what we find is a lot of times the problem is occurring because they don't know how to use their posterior, and that may be what starts it. And it's not that the knees going over top of the toes or even that we're leaning forward is necessarily a bad thing, but the first thing that tends to help move in the right direction is learning how to activate our posterior, be in good positions before we're kind of accepting that our knee is gonna go over our toes. So I think the first kind of test that we can acknowledge whether we're strong enough to be in a good position with our knee over our toe or not is the box step up and making sure that we have enough strength to controlled stand up and then controlled lower ourselves back down. It's okay if our shin is vertical for this or if our knee is going over top of our toe. But what we're trying to avoid, or we're seeing if we have the strength for, is not rocking up onto our knee where my body weight is over my knee and then my knee is also over my toe. That's not strong position, and it's also putting more pressure on my knee that is not good pressure when my knee is over my toe, my body weight is over it, and then it's also on my forefoot. We should be strong enough to hold that position, lift ourselves back up, and then controlled lower ourselves back down. Another good indicator that I'm in a good enough position to get my knee over top of my toe without creating more knee pain is that I'm able to keep my heel on the ground.
Touched on two components. We've touched on talking about being able to support yourself and have the strength to have your knee over the toe, but driving with your weight not necessarily over the knee. But we also are going to need the mobility to be able to do that. So a couple of my favorite things are going to be spending time, about 60 to 90 seconds, with a kettlebell on your knee, where you're just helping work on that ankle range of motion and mobility. So it's not our full body weight, but it's something a little bit more moderate that can assist us in working on driving our knee over our toe while keeping our heel pressed into the ground. Another one is going to be an ankle distraction. So having the band of the ankle on the front of the foot as we drive our knee over the toes, just working again on creating that mobility so we can get into the proper position and have the strength to be able to stand up from there.
Something else we want to touch on is the sled stuff. I absolutely love it, and I did fall in love with it literally down at West Side Barbell here in Columbus. A lot of times our warm-up would be laps around their building, which was probably 400 or 500 meters, and it would be a multiple of those on top of whatever we were doing in a normal training session. It's something we've carried out of there and done a ton of. Not only do we do a lot of sled pulling backwards, we do it forward, side to side, and also with different foot positioning. I popped a rib out a while ago, and it allowed me to still work my legs without having any sort of compression on my back. Do a light sled for a lot of different reps, or we can do a heavy sled for maybe a shorter distance. We can also change our foot positioning. So I might be pushing through the flat of my foot. If I'm walking backwards, I might get a different stimulus if I turn my toes out and work a little bit more my butt and my hamstrings. I can walk forwards and do the same thing. You go a little bit more stiff-legged, toes pointing out, you're gonna light your posterior up. You're walking forwards, you lean into it a little bit more, get a little bit more on your forefoot, you're gonna be using your quads, probably moving a little bit quicker. But they're a great tool that we highly recommend. It's a little bit harder to use in winter, unless you've got the room to do it inside of a gym, but during the summer, it is one of our favorite exercises. So to kind of sum it up, we're definitely big fans or proponents of having the ability to get our knees over top of our toes, whether we're squatting, lunging, whatever it is that we're doing. We absolutely love sled pulling. That being said, having the ability to do that doesn't mean we just jump right into it. One, having the strength, and two, working towards the mobility benefits of being in those positions. We're not just jumping into it and potentially causing more problems.
With anything else, it's gonna take patience, it's gonna take practice, and it's just gonna take doing it in a controlled environment. So just don't go in and try to bounce 100 squats with your knees over your toes. Work on some tempo stuff, work on strengthening them with the sled pulls, those mobility movements or those exercises that we shared, and over time, you will get there. So just be patient with yourself.
We thought the podcast was really interesting. It's a great listen. The Knees Over Toes guy will link his Instagram below. He's got all kinds of great drills and information on his Instagram. My leg's okay, my ankle's just fine, but my foot is not. I think it was 2 days ago now, I broke it quickly. I was not working out. During class, I was coaching, and we got a flag, or we have a bunch of flags hanging up in the background from our ceiling. One of them was tangled. I got a rope down, climbed up the rope, untangled the flag, slid back down, jumped off the rope a little bit early, and landed right on a dumbbell. I felt it pop in the moment, but I could move my toes, I could move my ankle. I thought maybe it's not broken. I was pretty optimistic, but it continued to swell, it continued to get more painful, and an x-ray showed that it is broken. It's the 5th metatarsal on the outside of my foot. I'm hoping I'm in this boot for about 6 weeks or so. It seems to be what I'm shooting for, which means I'm gonna be pretty close in the open. And I have always loved the open. I've done it every year since the open has been around. So I'll be really bummed if I don't get to participate in that. But I'm hoping that with a little bit of patience, taking care of it, not letting go of my conditioning and not getting fat over these 6 weeks, that I'm still gonna get to participate and even maybe make it past that 10% and onto the next stage, which would be really fun. If you guys have the stomach for watching it, I'll put the video of me actually falling or dropping and then falling here at the end of the video. So just know that's coming. If you got a weak stomach, maybe you'll click out here.
I think it's just really important reminder, don't climb the rope with anything under it. That way you can come down cleanly. Same goes for lifting. Like when you're lifting, back squatting, everything, get the plates out from under the bar, because it's a bummer when something silly or freakish happens and then you're sidelined for a couple weeks at a time. So just practice good maintenance and just good
It's terrible, and it's 100% my fault. I'm frustrated with myself more than anything. We cut all of our ropes short to purposely avoid the potential of anybody landing on a rope when they come down and rolling their ankle. I should have seen the dumbbell there. I just wasn't paying attention, and now I gotta live with the consequences. Good news is I don't have to get surgery. That was my number one concern, but
forget who you are. You a star. Don't touch your baby when I'm walking the streets. I know you feel it, but believe. Ain't no stopping me now. They talking crazy.